Okay, thank you for joining. Apologies for missing the last lecture. There are some of the unforeseen circumstances. I was moving houses. Mother was busy as well. So anyway, so here we are. Welcome to lecture 17. Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Starting off with Shanti Mantra. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sah Vidyam Karvavahe Tejasvinavaditamastu Mavidvishavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May we all be protected and nourished with knowledge. May we make effort for capacity for knowledge to take place. May what is studied by us be brilliantly clear. Let us not have any misunderstanding. Om, peace, peace, peace. So, today, as agenda, we'll talk a little bit about the entire new year. This lecture was supposed to be a week earlier. We're closer to the new year, but we will talk about it anyway. We'll talk about the assignment that we had previously given you guys. And then we'll continue on with this concluding module on the stories. Okay, so yeah, sorry. We'll start off with the quiz, the assignment. So we talked about a few different things, basically covering most of the stories that we talked about. We talked about what Chandra's 27 wives represent, Chandra's waxing and waning encodes what. Dhruva becoming the pole star illustrates what exactly. Kakudmi Revati's visit to Brahma and the passing of the 27 Chaturyugas is closest to which scientific phenomenon? In the story of Surya and Sanjana, what does the Sanjana's flight to Kula regions represents? And which specific star is identified in Western astronomy as the Ashwini's heliacal rising. So these are the answers. I think they are fairly clear that the 27 wives represent the 27 nakshatras,
Yeah.
which are called the lunar mansions. The Chandra waxing and waning clearly encodes the synodic month and not the sidereal month. The 27 nakshatras are the sidereal month, and the waxing and waning encodes the synodic. Dhruva, the fact that the pole star actually changes with time is a representation of the precession. Um, Kakudmi Revati's visit very much illustrates the twin paradox, and that is talked about, and the fact that the time dilates when you're going closer to the speed of light. In the story of Surya and Sanjana, the fact that Sanjana goes to the cooler regions because she cannot take the heat of the sun anymore illustrates the winter solstice. And the both of the Ashwinis are represented by the heliacal rising of the Alpha and Beta stars in the Aries constellation. Okay. All right. So just a few days ago, we celebrated New Year, and So what exactly is the New Year? So this is an edict given by the Pope Gregory in 1582. So the that was the start of the Gregorian New Year. Now, how did it start? Because before 1582, Europe, this was a European invasion, European invention, really, the Gregorian New Year, and they used the Julian calendar. The Julian calendar was introduced by Julius Caesar in 45 BCE. However, Julian calendar assumed a solar year of 365.25 days. Let me just get the pointer. Yeah, so it's assumed uh, um, a solar year of 365.25, but that is in reality a few decimal points away from the actual solar year. So it's 365.25. I think some cases it's 24 and some in 19 because of the elliptical orbit of the Earth around the Sun. So that this figure makes it about 11 minutes shorter. And what that means is that there is over the 1600 years before this was changed, it led to about 10 days of drift. So what that meant was that equinox, the spring equinox, and the Easter is actually calculated or based on the spring equinox, and it was not coinciding with March 21st. So it is actually going to March 11th. So that's why there was a now the whole Easter thing itself is probably an appropriation from earlier European festivals incorporated into the church, but they saw this phenomenon occurring, and then what happened was um, so in 1582 there was a correction because the Pope Gregory the 13th introduced this reform, and he ordered 10 days to be deleted from the calendar to bring the calendar back in sync with the sun. And therefore, the consequence was that people went to sleep on October 4th at 1582 and woke up the next morning on October 15th. So 10 days were deleted. And that was actually the start of the Gregorian New Year. So this was the 1582 decree. Now, then the question is, what about January 1st? Why is January 1st uh, the beginning of the new year? Now, this was again done in the Roman era, and it is a legacy of the Roman politics rather than any astronomical phenomenon. So, in 153 BCE, the Romans ruled that the January 1st was the day that the new military commanders uh, started taking office and started the new season. So that is why they moved the beginning of the year to January 1st. It is also named, the whole name of January was named after the Roman god Janus. And here you can see Janus is represented as a two-faced uh, god. and therefore they saw it was a perfect symbol for the new year, because you would one face is looking back at the past and one face is looking towards the future. So January 1st was chosen as the beginning of the new year, and the Gregorian reform uh, of 1582 kind of started the Gregorian calendar, and reinstated January 1st as the official global norm. So that is the reason why we celebrate the beginning of the new year, or why we use this particular calendar. Now, how is that different from the Hindu New Year? So the Hindu New Year, first of all, we know that the Gregorian New Year, beginning of January 1st, is not related to any astronomical event. It is more of a civil convention. Whereas the Hindu New Year traditionally is celebrated on Chaitra Shukla Pratipad, which is again in 2026. The It begins on March 19th. It aligns with a number of different things. I'll go into a little bit more, but it aligns with the arrival of the spring, the Vasanta Rutu, and the start of the new lunar cycle. So the Chandra moon is entering a nakshatra Chaitra at that date. So the gap between the Hindu calendar, which is now kind of traditionally referred to as Vikram Samvat, and it's 2083 in the Vikram Samvat, and this gap is roughly 57 years. 57 years, and we'll go a little bit more into that as well. And the Samvatsara is going to be starting in March. It's going to be celebrated as different festivals in different parts of India. And Ugadi, Gudi Padwa, Cheti Chand, Chaitanya Navaratri. So, what is the Vikram Samvat? The calendar is named after Vikramaditya of Ujjain. Vikramaditya, it does translate to Vikrama, valor, and Aditya, sun, so son of valor. The popular tradition states that the Vikramaditya established the Vikram Samvat in 57 BCE, and basically to commemorate his victory over some of the invading Shaka tribes. And he signaled a new beginning in 57 BCE, and so he started the calendar, the Vikram Samvat, and therefore the 57 years is because it is the difference of the gap between the Vikram Samvat and the Gregorian year is because of the starting of the Vikram Samvat in 57 BCE. So, why do we celebrate the New Year and Chaitra Shukla Pratipad? So it is a point of convergence of three things happening in the Indian civilization: cosmic, seasonal, and historical. So you can say that the cosmic is, there are references in Brahma Purana, and that the actual creation of time occurred on the vernal equinox. So that is the cosmic region. The seasonal, of course, it is the spring equinox, and it is also the solar entry. There is convergence between the lunisolar calendar. And there are many historical events, like even the coronation of King Sri Ram occurred on the Chaitra Shukla Pratipad after his return to Ayodhya in Kartika Amavasya. So, so therefore, there are these three events that converge in that on that day, and you can say that January 1st is really a date on human paper, whereas Chaitra Shukla Pratikpada is a date on cosmic clock, and it is the entire convergence that gives this date uh, uh, much greater significance than January 1st. Madhu, do you want to add anything to this?
Not really. Yeah, I mean, obviously, Jan 1st is a very arbitrary day, whereas Chaitra Shukla Pratipad, like we have seen in our earlier classes, is really the beginning of the Samvatsara, the 60-year cycle that we talk about, where there are 60 Samvatsaras, and the Chaitra Shukla Pratipad is the beginning of the Samvatsara, where the sun and the moon are in an Amavasya position just before the Chaitra month starts, right? Which is roughly coinciding with the beginning of the Vasanta Ritu as well. So I think that is uh, a little more convincing than just fixing an arbitrary date like Jan 1 to start a year, right?
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, I think that's basically what it is.
Okay, so let's move on to some of the stories now. Now, can anyone identify what this is actually? So this is the Kritika Nakshatra, and it's also in Western astronomy known as the Pleiades star cluster, given the nomenclature M45, and it's located in the constellation Taurus. So Kritika Nakshatra is the third nakshatra in the astrological system. It is known as the star of fire and ruled by the sun and the deity Agni. And we will go into understanding why indeed that is the case. And it actually symbolizes purification, transformation, and cutting through all the delusional aspects. Okay, so the story goes that the Sapta Rishis, the seven sages, lived with their seven devoted wives. Agni, the god of fire, got enamored with the beauty of the seven wives. It led to a certain desire to actually towards these seven wives. But he could not win them directly. And so he was helped by the goddess Swaha, who took the forms of the six wives to satisfy Agni's desire. So, because of this perceived infidelity, so the Saptarishis thought that their wives had actually gone with Agni. Um, they were separated from their husbands and moved to a different part of the sky, forming the Pleiades cluster. So that was the significance of that. But the traditional story is seven stars, or seven sisters, or seven stars in that cluster, and there was one missing. So who was that missing? And that was Arundhati, because Arundhati was known as being very pure, and so she remained steadfast and unmoving by Vashishta's side in the Saptarishi, or the Big Dipper. So this is the case of the lost seventh sister. So the Pleiades are kind of known globally as the seven sisters, yet only six are visible to the naked eye at the moment. And therefore, the story of the seventh wife, which is Arundhati, which stayed close to Vashishta Rishi in the Big Dipper, or the Saptarishi constellation, uh, provides like a story why there are only six Kritikas in the Pleiades cluster. And then there is also a precession aspect to this, because there are some people that suggest that what seven sisters actually meant was many thousands of years ago, it was actually visible. Seven were visible, and then there was, due to the precession, or due to one star not being as visible, there was a feeding of the seven sisters. So that could be another reason that of this lost seventh sister. So what does Vashishta and Arundhati also mean? And this is another aspect of the story, because many of the stories that we have many different aspects to them. And so one aspect was the Vashishta Arundhati, and the seventh star that did not leave the Saptarishi. And they correspond to, in Western astronomy, two stars, Mizar, which is the more visible star, and Alcor, which is the less visible, but is around or close to Mizar in the handle of the Big Dipper. And this is a visual double star system. In what you have is a twin star, a double star system, and uh, it is an interesting double star system, because you have both the stars going around each other, rather than one star being stationary and the other actually going around, or rotating around the other. And this is traditionally used in weddings, because Arundhati and Vashishta kind of signifies an ideal couple, because unlike another binary system, this is both the stars going around each other, symbolizing a marriage with equality and support. So that is the story of Vashishta and Arundhati. Another thing is that the Kritika story also in ancient times, around 2700 BCE, the list of nakshatras always started with Kritika rather than Ashwini, as it does now. And this is because, again, precision. During that era, the spring equinox occurred when the sun was in Kritika. And therefore, the fire of Agni associated with Kritika that's why the entire Kritika nakshatra is associated with Agni and symbolizing the awakening of the year. Okay, another story. Any clues or any idea what and where this is?
Cambodia, maybe?
Okay, that's one. Uh, so this is actually in
Sun
India.
temple.
Yeah, it is a sun temple in Anantnag. So
Ananta, yeah.
Martanda Sun Temple.
Martand.
Okay.
And it was constructed by Lalitaditya Muktapida in the 8th century CE. And the temple was unfortunately destroyed in the early 15th century by Sikandar Shah Miri, and it still lies in a little bit of a ruined state. It's in Kashmir, Anantnag district, near the town of Matan. Okay, so what is the story behind the Martanda? So this is a story of Aditi and Diti. Aditi and Diti were the daughters of Daksha Prajapati, and they became the wives of Kashyapa Rishi. They traditionally also represent the cosmic duality of creation. So Aditi mothered the Devas, whereas Diti mothered the Asuras or Daityas. I mean, loosely translated as gods and demons, but I mean, that's maybe the limitation of the English language. Aditi symbolizes the divine knowledge and infinity, giving birth to those Adityas. And Diti represents more the limitation, duality, and therefore mothered Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha, and then leading to these eternal conflicts between the Devas and Daityas. So their story really represents the balance between good and evil, knowledge and ignorance, Aditi's children embodying the order, whereas Aditi's embodying the chaos. And so that is the story that you have. But what does it actually symbolize from an astronomical perspective? Now, in the Rig Veda and the Puranas, Aditi initially is known as the mother of the 8 sons who are known as Adityas. But at the same time, the 7 sons were radiant and divine. The 8th sons was born as a shapeless Mrut Anda, Martanda, dead egg. And therefore, thinking him as inferior, initially he was cast away. And she brought him back to life to provide light and life to the world, but with a condition that he would born and die every day, which again symbolizes the cycle of sunrise and sunset. And this sun became Martanda, the sun, Sun. So the hymn that is with the birth the story is also known as Deva Sukta, and it's also a one of the we looked at Nasadiya Sukta, we looked at Hiranyagarbha Sukta, Purusha Sukta, but this is another which describes the birth of the universe. and by describing the birth of Aditi. And so this can be equated to the Big Bang description that we have seen. And so Aditi is kind of known or almost symbolizing the eternal or the expanding nature of the universe. So Aditi is known as space-time, and as we talked about in the Deva Sukta, and she is known as Akasha, the entire ether, and she's the container of the universe, and she kind of represents the background or the celestial sphere against which all planetary motion is measured. Now, the earlier Rig Veda mentioned 8 suns, but they were expanded to 12 Adityas, and they matched the 12 months of the year. So each Aditya represents the sun's specific characteristics as it passes through the 12 rashis or 12 zodiacs. This is the story of Aditya and the story of the sun, and it provides a powerful mnemonic for the ecliptic path of the sun's journey. So Mrita and Martanda, the dead egg is also a very profound description of the sun's physical nature. The shape correctly identifies the sun as a ellipsoidal body rather than a flat disk, and it kind of again, I mean, the original story with the 7 suns and the 8 suns again was pretty unique from that perspective. He appears lifeless, but was a source of all life. So that is what distinguishes sun from the other grahas. So the entire description of Martanda. So another aspect of the story is uh, uh, the whole archaeoastronomy aspect, because in Vedanta Jyotisha, Aditi is the presiding deity of Punarvasu. And the thousands of years ago, which approximately we're saying in the region of 6,000 to 4,000 BCE, the winter solstice occurred when the sun was in Punarvasu, and which is the Gemini constellation, Pollux, cast of Pollux. And that Punarvasu actually means almost the Punarvasu, return of light. And the story of Aditi bringing Martanda for the sake of the world is like an allegory for the sun returning north from its lowest point in winter. So that is an archaeoastronomical marker for when this story came into being. So just a recap of the stories we've been through. I think we've been through 8 or 9 different stories, but I think it kind of each story had this enormous background profundity associated with it, and I just wanted to recap all these stories that we looked at. So we looked at the story of Dhruva, uh, and again, Dhruva means unmoving or fixed, and we clearly saw the fixation of the pole star and the rotation of the Saptarishis around it. And I think Pani Rajji mentioned that it very much kind of reflects the swastik symbol and as you go along. So that has been pointed out. And it also is a very powerful reminder of the precession of the earth and the fact that in the Vishnu Purana talks about Dhruva's mother Suniti being near him and that kind of related with around 2800 BCE, where Draco, the Tuban in the constellation was actually the pole star, and there was a star close to Tuban reflecting Suniti. Then we looked at Chandra and the 27 wives, and we had a very, again, a very nice description, many different aspects. Again, like I've told you, that each story has is coded many different aspects into one story. So this entire story with the 27 wives is about the 27 nakshatras that the moon goes around in a sidereal month. But it also talks about this whole waxing and waning in the same story, and that points to the synodic month. And interestingly, it also talks about the entire phenomenon of lunar occultation, and that is what it says with Rohini, which is Aldebaran, and we kind of found that that all these nakshatras that lie in that 4 to 6 degree ecliptic path show the greatest possibility of occultation, and Rohini shows the greatest occultation of all. So there are at least 3 aspects covered in this one story, which is again very profound and very amazing. Then we looked at Kakudmi Revati story, and this is again in the Bhagavad Puranas, which is at least 5,000 years old, if not more. And he talks about this Brahma's concert, and that correlates so very well to this twin paradox that we talked about. And we also talked about how that entire concept is used in a Hollywood movie, Interstellar. Christopher Nolan, a renowned director who's directed many movies, but this particular movie, we saw that it kind of correlated so well with the Kakudmi Revati story. But there is not, or there is no reference to the Kakudmi Revati story made by anyone. So that is the nature of what is happening with some of the Western narrative. We looked at the Surya Sanjana story, and we saw that this story is a very good allegory for the Dakshinayana, or the sun's southern journey, where Sanjana cannot stand the heat of the sun and moves to the cooler regions. And then we also talked about the birth of the Ashwinis, resulting from the union of Surya and Sanjana. And that is I mean, that is another amazing aspect because the birth of the Ashwinis corresponded with the Uttarayana, and that we can use as a um, marker, again in using archaeoastronomical modeling, and then we saw that the heliacal rising or the rising of the Ashwinis with the sun was approximately at 7,200 BCE. So again, this astronomy timestamp that we have again, just completely, the entire Aryan invasion theory in the Western narrative is is clearly bogus. It does not stand any of these different interpretations that we have and clear historical evidences that we have. We also looked at Samudra Manthan, and we looked at the fact that every aspect of the story corresponds to some astronomical reality. So we looked at the ocean of milk, the Kshira Sagra, which corresponds to the Milky Way galaxy, the Earth's rotational axis, the tilting is represented by Mount Mandara. The stable core of the Earth, or the ecliptic plane, represented by Kurma in the Kurma avatar, and the Vasuki as the rope. It's almost equated to the celestial equator wrapped around the axis. So many fascinating and amazing things that we have. And even the Amrita pot is kind of the source of the cosmic energy, the galactic center. I mean, yeah, some of these are interpretations are very metaphorical, of course, but the fact that all these things have been thought about so many thousands of years ago and been represented in stories is quite mind-boggling. So what we learned in all these three different modules, going through 8 or 9 stories, is that these stories, Madhu, you wanted to?
No, Ajay, you can complete the summary and I can.
Yeah. Sure. So I think, what we have taken as traditional stories, and maybe the limit of what we understood was very moral lessons. But these stories, as we've seen, go much beyond that, much, much beyond that. And these stories were originally meant as a medium for transfer of knowledge through the generations. And they encompass so much depth of scientific phenomena in them. And therefore, it's imperative for us to understand this encoded wisdom. And we have to get the key to unlock this wisdom, unlock the knowledge, and make sure that we pass it on. So that was basically what we learned from these stories.
Yeah. So, yeah, I just wanted to add to what Ajay ji has spoken, right? Like there are so many kind of hidden clues in our, these stories, right? So one example that I thought I'll highlight is we talked about the Punarvasu nakshatra, right? So the Punarvasu nakshatra, I mean, again, slightly taking a detour into the astrology dimension here, but Punarvasu, see, the Sanskrita meaning of Punarvasu literally is Punaha plus Vasu, which means Punaha means return or again, getting again. And Vasu means all the riches or the wealth, right? So It's like it symbolizes that the wealth is returning to, it's kind of like a homecoming or returning to one's home or to one's wealth is kind of what is symbolized by the Punarvasu. Now, what is really interesting about it is, if you look at Punarvasu in the zodiac, right, it happens at the end of Mithuna and at the beginning of Kataka, right? If you just come to the exact opposite of that in the zodiac, you are looking at the beginning of Capricorn, right? Now, what happens at the beginning of Capricorn? At the beginning of Capricorn, when the sun entering into Capricorn is what is typically Makara Sankranti. I mean, it's a different coincidence that we are actually very near Makara Sankranti and discussing this. But Makara Sankranti is the sun entering into Capricorn, right? Which essentially is, and Capricorn, as per astrology, is ruled by Saturn, right? So Capricorn is Saturn's home. Saturn is the son of Sun, and Sun is actually going into his son's home, right? So in a way, Sun is actually going into his own home, right? Now 180 degrees apart, you have the Punarvasu nakshatra, right, which is also symbolizing the returning into one's home, right? Now, where this gets even better is Punarvasu nakshatra is Lord Rama's nakshatra, right? Now, Lord Rama himself had to be in exile for 14 years and then return back home, right? So, the returning back of home of Rama, who belongs to Punarvasu nakshatra, exact opposite is the sun returning to one's own home, which is basically Saturn's home, right? So, there's a very nice kind of symbolism associated with these opposite stars, these Punarvasu and, in this case, I think it's Uttarashada, I think, right? So I just wanted to kind of bring that out since we are talking about Punarvasu. So Punarvasu is always associated with coming back home or coming back to one's own home after having left it, right? And the return of the wealth associated with the coming back of home. So typically in the astrology world, when you have to do any predictions based on the Punarvasu nakshatra, they are always successful the second time around, not always the first time, right? Because they face kind of obstruction in the first. If they try something, they don't succeed first, but then the second time they do it, they actually succeed, right? So that's the kind of symbolism that gets us. I just want to kind of bring that out, right? Now the other nakshatra we discussed was the Kritika nakshatra. Incidentally, Kritika also, the Kritika Vishaka is a nakshatra pair, right? Now both of them are associated with Lord Muruga or Lord Subramanya, right? So Muruga is born in the Vishaka nakshatra, right? But then he is nurtured in the Kritika nakshatra, which is exactly 180 degrees opposite to it, right? And also the nurturing is happening through the six nurses or 6 women, right? And that is why Lord Muruga is always associated with the number 6, right? Shanmukha, see his 6 faces, or the Shashti Titi is very closely associated with Lord Muruga, right? So there's a very nice kind of symbolism that is happening there as well. See, again, there is a kind of a mysterious connection between these nakshatra pairs, whether it is Ashwini and Chitra, or whether it is between Vishaka and Kritika, and we can keep going on Bharani and Swati, right? So it's very interesting. So point is we're only kind of scratching the surface of it. There is a much deeper meaning that's kind of encoded in these astronomical meanings encoded in these stories, which is very interesting to unearth as we kind of go deeper. So I just wanted to bring out some of these interesting combinations, in the light of what we discussed today. Yes, sir. So that is it.
Sir, you had also mentioned about the number 6 associated with Muruga. He has 6 houses, Arupadai Veedu in Tamil.
Arupadai Veedu. Exactly. Yeah, so the number 6 is a recurring theme in Muruga's, all the stories and the iconography and all those things.
Yeah.
And the Vishaka Kritika pair. And incidentally, I just also want to mention that I think Ajayji also mentioned about the cutting nature of the Kritika nakshatra. So incidentally, the Kritika is the symbol for Kritika is the axe, right? Or a razor or a knife, which is used to cut, right? So that's where the cutting quality comes. Incidentally, the words criticize, critical, critic, all of those probably came from the origin word kritika, which is actually to cut. That's why when you have like a cutting speech or a cutting comment on something, it's like very critical or very critical. So there is maybe there's a lot of nice stuff. See, these are not. This is not arbitrary. There is a very intelligent design that is behind the scenes, which we are only trying to see in bits and parts and trying to understand. But there's a much deeper truth that is hidden underneath, awaiting to be, kind of learned more. So I think that's the takeaway for us. Just thought I'll share this.
Yeah, correct. Okay. Does anybody else have any other questions? Or
Yeah. For, Ajay, for some time I've been wondering to ask this question. These constellations, or the samuha of nakshatras, there are 12 of them as far as sun's plane is concerned,
yeah,
and 27 as far as the moon is concerned. In terms of their location, maybe the locations are different, right? That's my understanding, because the plane of the moon is different, so is the sun from the Earth's perspective. Is that my understanding correct, or I'm missing
yes.
something?
You have the moon's ecliptic at about 5 degrees from the sun. So
Okay.
you have the moon passing. So the nakshatras are not all part of the zodiac. So some nakshatras and some zodiacs will coincide, but some of them don't.
Right.
Yeah, I think Fadilaj, you can look at the Rasis and the Nakshatras as two different layers, right? So first layer is the 12 Rashis, and then maybe the second layer is the 27 Nakshatras, which is but it's basically the same 360 degrees. That is, when you divide it by 12, they become the Rasis. When you actually divide it by 27, they become the Nakshatras. So when the moon moves through the Nakshatras, it is also moving through the Rasis. So for example, when it is moving through the Swati Nakshatra, it is actually moving through the Tula Rasi, right? So these are not different, let's say, coordinate systems. They are actually the same coordinate system, but the division is of Rasis is different from the division of the nakshatras, right? And that's why there are like 2.25 nakshatras in one Rasi, right?
Yes.
So when the sun, when the moon is actually going through one of the 27 nakshatras, it's also there in one of the 12 Rasis that are there. So I hope that maybe clarifies a little bit.
Yeah. No,
Or
my fundamental
probably does it
doubt
confuse
was
you more?
my fundamental doubt was whether these 27 nakshatra samuhas are part of those 12 zodiacs, or they're totally different in different planes. I mean,
They are part. They are part
oh,
of the zodiac. They are part of the
oh,
12. So in Mesha Rasi, which is one of the 12 Rasis, you have Ashwini, Bharani, and 1/4 of the Kritika Nakshatra, right?
right.
So which is like two quarter nakshatras. So if you multiply the 2 quarters through all the 12 Rasis, you actually get the 27. So
9 padams per Rasi. So 9 into 12 is 108, which you divide by 4 is 27.
yeah.
Mm,
So it
interesting.
is the same.
Thank you.
It is the same coordinate system. It's how if you cut the cloth 12 times, there are 12 rasis. You cut them 27 times, there are 27. But it's the same cloth that you're cutting.
Yeah. So it's like 30 degrees each for the zodiac, and then 13.3 degrees for each nakshatra. So that is why you have a division of, at least two and a quarter nakshatra and that kind of thing in one zodiac.
That's true. We incidentally call that as pada, right? Pada in Sanskritam is 1/4. So that's why when we say 9 pada is 9 quarters. So
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. So we shall meet again next week, and then Madhuji will basically continue on some of the other aspects before we conclude.
So next week, we'll try to again change gears and talk a little bit about planets, the planetary theory in Indian astronomy, right? So what are the references to planets? And we have the opportunity to go a little bit deep mathematical, but maybe we will not do that. We will stick to a conceptual study of the planetary theory and still cover the major concepts that are there.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Namaste.
Dhanyawadaha.
Thank you. Dhanyawad.
ధన్యవాదాలు. Yeah.